Hey everyone, and welcome to the next lesson in this series on AWS fundamentals. So today we're going to talk about security groups a little bit more in detail. So what I want you guys to do is to go ahead and create your EC2 instance. Now, for those of you that are unsure how to do it, I do mention that in my previous video on how to create an EC2 instance. So make sure you go ahead and create one. Now, once you've created your EC2 instance, all right, ensure that it is in a running state and that the status check here has been passed by 2 out of 2. So what you can do, of course, once you've set up your EC2 instance, just go ahead and connect to it. Of course, you'll have a different public IPv4 address as I have. So go ahead and just connect to it and you will see the following. Okay. Great. So something we want to understand in greater detail is security groups. So what we can do is we can go here on the left on this info panel, and we can scroll down here until we see this network and security section. And under that, we have a few things we can check. So we want to evaluate our security group. So let's go ahead and click on security groups. Great. And we can see here that we have 2 security groups. We have the default one, which was already there when we created our AWS account. And then we also have a security group here called Launch Wizard 1, which I referred to in my previous video, is the first security group we'll ever create when we are launching our EC2 instance. Right, so what we can do is we can actually click on the security group here because this security group is attached to our EC2 instance. So to validate this, if we go back to EC2 dashboard, and we just refresh this, go to our instances that are running and close this out. We can check this instance here. And if we scroll down here, okay, and we go to security, we scroll down here, we'll see the security group here, which is attached to this EC2 instance. Now, in my case, it's called Launch Wizard 1. It might be different for you. So go ahead and click on your security group here, okay, and open it in a new tab. Okay, and now you can see the specific security group that was linked to your EC2 instance that we see here. Okay, so this is connected to Launch Wizard 1. It might be different for you. This could be Launch Wizard 2, Launch Wizard 3, depending on how many security groups you create. Okay, now before we go into detail, I just want to mention something. So our security groups, like I mentioned earlier on, is basically a firewall. Now with our security group, okay, we can define firewall rules since our security group is a firewall. Now these firewall rules will depend on 2 factors. Now the first one is inbound rules, and the second one will be on outbound rules. So the inbound rules is what is allowed to connect to our EC2 instance. Now in this case, we are allowing HTTP and SSH to connect through to our EC2 instance. And HTTP is via port 80 and SSH is via port 22. So these are the input rules that we have for our EC2 instance. So we can connect to our EC2 instance via HTTP and SSH. Okay. Now, outbound rules has to do with the traffic coming out of our EC2 instance. Okay, now this is very generic. So basically, we're allowing all type of traffic to come out from our EC2 instance. So basically here, with our inbound rules, we have HTTP here as an inbound rule. So this is why we're actually able to connect to our EC2 instance here. So if I were to just, yeah, we can leave it like this actually. So if I go back to my original section here, so if we open this address, for example, okay, and we just switch this to HTTP here, okay, and we press enter, this is us connecting to our EC2 instance, okay, via HTTP, okay, this is how we're able to connect to our EC2 instance here via HTTP, okay. So that is one way to connect to it. Now the other way that we can connect to it is via SSH on port 22. Now to do this, for example, you would require a special client. So if you're using Windows, you're going to require something called PuTTY, which I'll cover at some point. So you'll utilize PuTTY to connect to your EC2 instance remotely via port range 22. So this is the second way that you can actually access your EC2 instance. Now, there's something I want to show you here. So with our inbound rules, let's say I say edit inbound rules. And I'm going to remove this HTTP inbound rule. So this is like a firewall rule. And I delete this here. And I save the changes, like so. And let's say I go to my EC2 instance. Okay, now we can just wait for a few seconds for it to propagate. So I'll just wait a few seconds. And then what we can do is we can go to our EC2 instance here and we can refresh. Now what's going to happen when we refresh, okay, you're going to see it's just going to load and load and load, and then eventually it will time out. So if we do that now, we've waited long enough, and reload here, you can see already we're going to eventually get a timeout because we have no inbound rule from type HTTP to actually connect to this EC2 instance. So this is an example of our inbound rule now live in action. So this is going to time out forever. So what I'm going to do is just close this tab for now, but this is going to time out. There we go. So it's already done it. So the site can't be reached. It took too long to respond. Great. So I'm going to close this. And what we can do now is we can go ahead and edit our inbound rules now and add the rule. And we want to set this to HTTP. So let's see where we have it. There we go. And we want to set the custom. Now, by default, we had this here, the CIDR block. This is from IPv4 addresses. Now, a good practice is to also add another HTTP type here that is for IPv6 addresses. Now, do notice these are known as CIDR blocks. So this CIDR block refers to IPv6 addresses. And this CIDR block here refers to IPv4 addresses. Now, this is good practice to go ahead and add two of them here. Okay, so we can save the rules. Now, it won't make a difference if you just have the one here as we saw before, but I'm just adding an extra one here, okay, which you can add, okay, and it won't make much of a difference. So we can save these rules. Okay, there we are, they say. So now we have our inbound rules. Okay, so what I want us to do now is to just wait a few seconds. And then what we can do is we can go ahead and connect to our IPv4 address again. So I'm just going to open the address here. So let's open this up. Okay, I'm going to double click here and switch this to HTTP. And there we go, we connected to it. Perfect. So as we can see now, we now went ahead and added our inbound rule back. Okay, and the inbound rule that we added back was this one here. Okay, we added a new inbound rule here, IPv6, okay, but we don't need this, okay, so you don't need to worry. I'm going to take this out actually. So I'm just going to actually edit inbound rules, and we can take out this IPv6 address here for HTTP. We can delete that. So we're going to keep it now originally as it was, save it, and it won't make a difference as you'll see now. So we can wait a few seconds. Okay, we can actually close this and go ahead and open it again. So I'll just wait a few seconds for it to propagate. Open here, open address. Okay, and switch this to HTTP. And there we go. So you can see it works just fine. So that's that on security groups. So we have our inbound rules, known as our firewall rules, and our outbound rules. Now, of course, we can go to inbound rules, and let's say we're dealing with SSL certificates or our domain name. We would need to create a new rule, okay, that says HTTPS. Okay, so that's what we would need to require if we want a secure connection. So as we know, HTTP is insecure, HTTPS is secure, so just bear that in mind. So you would need to configure inbound rules for HTTPS requests. Okay, now in this case, we just configured it for HTTP on port 80, HTTPS will be on port 443. Okay, and of course with SSH, we would need to install PuTTY if we're using Windows, and we will be able then to connect to our EC2 instance this way as well. So these are two ways that traffic can enter our EC2 instance, hence inbound rules for inbound traffic. And let's go back, and outbound rules for outbound traffic. Okay, so that's it on security groups. So I just wanted to go a bit deeper so you have a fundamental understanding of security groups. Okay, so that is it. So what you can do now actually is, just for safety, make sure that once you have your instance all set here, make sure to terminate your instance once you're done with it. So to do that, I'll show you again. So just click on the check mark here, go to instance state and say terminate instance. Okay, so just be sure to do that when you're ready. So for those of you that don't know how, this is how you can terminate your instance. As long as the state says shutting down, you're good to go. All right, so that's it on security groups, and I hoped it was helpful for you. So thank you again, and that's that.